Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. This week, I continue my series on the Pantheons of 2nd edition Scion by talking about the Chinese Pantheon, the Celestial Bureaucracy, the Shen. The Shen are the embodiment of the traditional Chinese belief structure. Well, of a rigid hierarchy and everything in its place. The main deities that are mentioned are more the upper level, everyone knows these. While ultimately, every spirit, little god, even demons and titans have their place in the celestial bureaucracy. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as I talk about the Shen of China. So when you're looking at the Shen of China, the first thing you have to understand is they are indeed a celestial bureaucracy. At the head of the Pantheon, although this entity does not directly have any scions, is sometimes called the August Personage of Jade, sometimes called the Jade Emperor. Both are accurate. And, basically the Jade Emperor came in, looked at the Middle Kingdom, looked at China, and said, I'm going to organize all these gods. And made a royal court around himself, and expanded it. And ultimately, every spirit, every deity, and, as I said, even some titans are part of the celestial bureaucracy that grew from his court. What's funny is the dragon of the Eastern Sea. This is a titan. And all it wants is to be left alone. But, first you have Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, steal the supports for his palace to turn into a staff. His expanding, collapsing staff. Then, you have some others come along, and now it's just every scion of the Shen at some point wants to just try to steal towels, seduce his daughters, and all this poor dragon wants is to be left alone, rule the seas, occasionally cause a tsunami to make people sacrifice to him properly. Is it too much for a dragon to ask? Of course it is. Because we're talking about heroes. And heroes, they always complicate everything, don't they? But what's funny is two of the deities that are listed in the Shen, Confucius and Lao Tzu, as in Confucius and the guy who wrote the Tao Te Ching, are not what you would consider gods in the traditional sense. They are more great teachers, sages, who got elevated to divine status. And because of Confucius is how the celestial bureaucracy is organized. It was Confucius who developed the "You will be tested. We will find what your pigeonhole is, and you will stay in that pigeonhole. You will not try to get out of that, because we have found the best place for you." And that's a big part of why Sun Wukong is interesting. Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. As I mentioned, he stole the pillars supporting the palace of the Dragon of the Eastern Sea. But he did a bit more than that. You see, first he found a place for all monkeys to be. The Mountain of Fruits and Flowers. And, he found his way behind a waterfall and found his first taste of immortality back there. And of course, he made the Monkey King because he was immortal. And he was the most clever of monkeys. And then it gets even more fun. So the Celestial Bureaucracy tried to bring him in because, hey, he's essentially a god, so he has to fit in the Celestial Bureaucracy. They gave him a job guarding the plums of immortality. He ate them. And then he got asked where the plums were. And he ran. He stole Lao Tzu's immortality pills and took them and ate them. And Lao Tzu's immortality elixirs, same thing. So at this point, he's like 3 times immortal. And it's like every single one of the gods tried different things to deal with him, and he either outsmarted or just, "Hi, I'm immortal 3 or 4 different ways. Ha, you can't kill me." Them. Until different versions put different entities for this. But the one I've heard is until he challenged the Buddha itself. The Buddha himself came up and challenged the Monkey King to a simple task. Jump out of the palm of my hand. And the Monkey King jumped and went way, way high as the moon, and landed and found that he had not gotten past the Buddha's thumb. And then he was put under a mountain for 500 years. And then he was given a chance for redemption in the Journey to the West. And I don't have any way to summarize that. One of my favorite mythology and history summarization channels is actually been doing a summary of Journey to the West. And they're at like 8 parts. And that's a summary. Yeah, I'm not summarizing the Journey to the West. But once you take all that into account, that is the Shen in a nutshell. I mean, they have a number of king and emperor deities among them, but they're still subservient to the Jade Emperor, or august personage of jade, whichever you prefer. And here's where they get into the more interesting aspects. When you're talking about their virtues, all the other pantheons have very simple virtues. Tradition and innovation. Things like that. The Shen, their virtues are literally yin and yang. Now, normally this is, everyone knows the symbol for yin and yang, I hope. And the big thing with the Shen is, it's more the idea of keeping the two in balance, but some people are more aspected to yin, some people are more aspected to yang, and it's always kind of tricky for Westerners to understand the difference between the two, because, frankly, it gets translated differently by so many different sources. But for purposes here, this is how they go with it. If you are a yin aspected person, you are going to have a tendency to be subtle, gentle, and patient. As, yin is things like a joint lock that counters a punch. It's the questions asked by a therapist. It's about subtlety, not brute force. It's more going with how things flow. The best of yin makes someone sensitive, caring, and adaptable. The worst of yin is someone who's cold as water, sinister as the depths, and dishonest as trying to see through that water. So it's the worst of yin is sinister, dishonest, and ruthless. Yang is bold, powerful, vibrant, charismatic energy. It is the person dancing around the flames. It is the person delivering a passionate speech. It's fire, basically. The fires of passion, the fires of belief, whatever. It's the fire. Yang is the fire to yin's water. And at its best, yang is hopeful, vibrant, alive, strong. And at its worst, it is the angry rabble, the youth screaming at everything. It's inflexible, it's loud, because yang is, it has one purpose. And that's what it ends up being. The fire that consumes someone. And now we get to talk about the fun part of every pantheon. Their greatest weakness. I'm not going to talk about their relationships with the other Pantheons, just because it pretty much amounts to they see everyone not Chinese, or at least Japanese or Indian, as a barbarian. And they kind of get along okay-ish with the Kami of Japan and the Diva of India. Their relationships are explained. But their greatest weakness is kind of funny. You see, they have their pantheon set up in a way to govern the world. And there's lots of Shen. And that's their weakness, that there's too dang many of them. They have the world's oldest and most experienced bureaucracy. Set back, things other bureaucracies might find unconscionable. Previously subjugated titans, entire disgruntled administrative departments going rogue and becoming cannibal chieftains on some mountain or other. They just kind of go, oh, that is procedure 32B, subsection C. And, if you are a Scion of the Shen, you're gonna regularly be drafted into any number of problems considered beneath heaven's notice. I.e., someone screwed up, you get to fix it before someone higher up the chain notices someone messed up. And that is the big weakness of the Shen. Next week, I'm going to be talking about the Teotl, the Aztec Pantheon. So until then, I'd like you all to remember to have fun and keep gaming.